Alright, so what are we doing today? We are hanging out and I am working on some stuff in another browser. But for you guys, I have... How's it going, Akshanya? Yeah, we are working on just kind of doing some stuff. I've got some stuff going in another window here. And I'm kind of hanging out with you guys. And I've got the bot stuff that you guys like to play with. So you can send commands in. I'll set those commands up here in a second. I mean, they're running right now, but for people that want to send the questions or the llama stuff, we've got that all set up. So there we go. Yeah. So you guys can ask. You can do commands. I think commands will tell you guys all the commands on both sides there. And then you guys can go look at whatever's going on in there. We have...
I can answer that for money.
You know, it's funny. I have that set up, but I think that goes on only in a different window now that I'm looking at it. Oh, no, you know what? BTOP is too high up. That's what it is. Hold on. Let me move my thing down real quick. I've got something that's over the top of that. Coworking. Yeah. That only didn't work because why didn't that? Hold on. Got something over the top of something here. Hold aisle must be above whatever. Oh, you know what? It's because it's in a different window. It'll still tell you. It just won't pop over the top of that. That's fine. I'm okay with that. It's a fair enough, small enough trade-off that I don't care. And then there's timeouts on some of that stuff, Akshanya, so it might not come up right away. But yeah, we're just kind of hanging out a little bit, watching the system run, watching. You guys can give questions or commands directly into the Linux box and see that run if you wanted to. That tends to be something like answer, I think. Also, interestingly enough, I would have thought that I don't see it over here on the YouTube, Twitch. Yeah, I have a combined. I thought I had one. Should be answer. Yeah, okay. So that's working like it should. And then the AI should also work if you do I think you got to do again, this is kind of strange. I'm sure that command is supposed to do something. I got to go figure out why my command is not doing what it's doing or what it's supposed to. Command should send out AI llama. Yeah. Call nothing objection courses, ask question problem, AI or challenge. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why that's not. Okay, there it is. Now it's showing that. That should show all the commands over there. Alright, yeah, okay, that's better. So now if you did like AI or llama, it will pop up with the answer to you know, if you ask the llama a question, it'll pop up with answers and stuff, and you'll see it run through the llama. So that's all there. All right. But what are we working on today? Mainly just hanging out, working on. I'm co-working in a different window, and just kind of seeing everything pop up over here. I'm gonna do an AI. What is a? That should pop up down at the bottom. Did not do exactly like we wanted. Did a little bit of load on the system, but it did not do. It asked us to question back instead of answering the question for us like it should have. That's not exactly what we wanted. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, so we're just kind of hanging out, and got some little stuff going on, and we gotta hop on and tell you guys that we've got a Linux group that's out there that you can hang out with and work on getting better at professional Linux throughout the day. Might get rid of that. We might not need that right now. There we go. And that's our security course. So we also need our LAC, which is our other course. And typically we need to see this. We're in week 11 of the course right now, so we're monitoring systems. Next week will be 12, which will be just straight engineering.
I can answer that for money.
Huh. So the ask, when you do ask, it's pretty much just going to pop up a thing, normally a GIF. But I do like that. Anyways, what is your init system and what are other variants and how do they differ? All right, so init used to be the way that we started up. We had our run levels, which were set in different RC files. So typically it was etc init.d is where we kept all the scripts and everything. And then we had etc rc.1.2.3.4.5. So we had these RC run levels, right? And things would run out of there. And then there was a startup order, which were the typically 00 through 99 scripts. And then you had the K when we shut them down, K 00 through 99, and that was the order that we shut things down in, right? So that's the way we used to do it with init, but init was very much like just a fire and forget. There was no, when you ran init commands to start a system up, it just walked down the line and fired them off. And if they didn't work, fuck it, who cares? There was no real way to control. Systemd came along, and Systemd has a lot more control and watching of the processes and keeping things kind of actively monitored. You can still do single shot, what we call one shot inside of Systemd, and you can still do that. You can do mount points in Systemd. It used to be init didn't handle the mount points. You had to do your mount points all in etcfs tab. We still do a lot with etcfs tab, right? But you don't have to do that anymore, and a lot of people are actually moving towards, I'd say in the last year or so, I've been watching a lot of the other engineers that I work with kind of moving towards doing everything in Systemd mounts. And that makes sense because Systemd really is who starts the system. It's always process number one in modern Linux boxes. So it's kind of a nice thing to check. Sometimes I show you guys that we can go and look at a box and see where it started from. See where everything started from. But I might note here on our co-working task. Let me go fix that that location real quick. So co-working tasks. This should be, that's a file. Let me go look at that real quick. Ask questions. Those tend to look like or see if that's gonna look a little better here. back down there. Let's put that up here. Maybe that's easier for people to see. Yeah, put it right there. Yeah, maybe that's a little easier for people to see. So co-working, hangout, Ask Linux. You know what? Hold on. Oh, we'll move it back down here. Right there. So you can still see the penguins. How's that? It's better. All right. Anyways, you guys can do !ask questions. It'll at least alert me while I'm doing other stuff. And then !AI or llama will tell you, or it will ask the llama, and then that system will go and ask. It's a Qwen 2.5, so it's a pretty small model running on 32 CPUs, so it's not even a GPU enabled model because we don't have GPUs in our lab yet, but we'll get them. We'll get them one of these days. So if anybody wants to do an !AI, you can ask it a question. You'll watch it sit there and churn through. That system's chilling right now, but when it starts answering questions, it's gonna proc up pretty high. Let's see if it'll answer you. I'm not sure. Should try to answer you. And actually, you know what? I need to make it probably give you your answer back as well. But there it is. Says it's an AI. Also didn't churn. It didn't chew through that too much. I used to have that come out with a voice that used to actually talk, but I turned that off because we weren't really using it much. But it's a Qwen 2.5 model. We could run bigger ones. It's just we need GPUs to do it in the lab. So that's kind of that. Also, I need to probably modify that so it takes in the question and shows you the question. So it doesn't show when I'm gonna stop that for a second. Ah, Jesus Christ. What's going on with this system? Super slow right now. Literally can't even. All right. So question. Watch file, stream output, read event. Prompt question. We could just have it just for fun, just for now. We can just have it echo. And then that too for a second. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get one of those little digits things. Let's try that. All right. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing one of those digits when they come out. I was checking just on the weekend too. It looks like it's not open yet still. So, Nick, so you said Linux systems administration with AI integration for the new market. Yeah, I mean we're just playing around here. We're not really doing anything super serious right now. Mainly because I'm working on another window. But yeah, I think Linux sysadmin is the main place that I try to point people to go to start. But then obviously you guys can go do tech wherever, right? I mean, I think you get in and then you start doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I do have a little bit of Linux AI integration in the background of this, sure. You know, you can ask questions like that. Ekshanya asked a question about thinking models, and then you can see the system over there burning through it, trying to figure it out, and then it's going to drop the answer back on the left again. So, also we have up here on the right, I can on the logs. Let's stop this for a second. Go to the logs. This can change over to, oh, where would that be? I know I have that variable captured. So hold on. Let's go to failed. Let's go to messages and maybe. No, where is it? Where is it putting that? I got to think of where that's going. I thought I was dropping that. Oh, no. hold on. I think I'm grabbing that on. Shit, I can't remember where I'm sending that. I know we're putting that message somewhere. I just don't know. Yeah, I have the new line characters in it because we were making it nice for uploading. That's why that looks like that. We were making it nice for uploading back into Loki, but I legitimately cannot remember. I literally cannot fucking remember where that's writing to. That's really bugging me. Opt. Oh, I gotta refresh this. That's what my problem is. I was like, wait a minute, why the hell are there not? Okay, so then we could see stream answers, and we get rid of host box here. Yeah, okay, it's because it had rolled off, and then we would see different answers from people, and then over here in Llama Answer, we would see answers that were coming back from users as well. So there's the answers there for people, and then if we go back over here and run it, yeah, that was my. Oh, oops. There we go. Now that'll run and do all the things that we expect it to there. All right. So now, if people ask questions with AI, it'll pop back up there. Yeah. So now that'll pop up. That'll pop up correctly now. In the, at least in the output. Yeah. And this is a pipeline. I've shown you guys before what that pipeline kind of looks like as far as pulling data in. You need to use a tool that has integrations with Twitch and YouTube. I chose to use a tool like StreamerBot. You can write, I mean, you can write your own stuff if you guys want to get into all those API calls and getting a token and stuff. That's not impossible. That's just more on the dev side of things and maybe not what I'm super interested in. So I use a tool like StreamerBot, and then I just use things that are local to my home system already. I already have Samba set up, and I already have a connection back into my Linux boxes in my lab. So then all I need to do is take chat in. Once you guys send that chat in with the !AI, it catches it, puts it in a file. My system churns through it, reads it all, tries to answer it if it can, right? If Quen 2.5 can answer it, it does. And then it gives you guys a message back out. We just modified it, so now it shows your question as well. And then in the top window is a different beast. That is, if you do !answer, you can send anything you want into the Linux system. So if you had, you know, if on the top right, what I was originally doing for today was I was going to have this moved over a little bit here. And then I can make that a little smaller. Boom. That was going to sit here. And then I was going to have my Socratic Linux sitting up here, and Socratic Linux was going to look like this, and it was just going to run and ask you guys questions. So if you guys have never seen like learning Linux through the Socratic method, this is a way that we can, you know, teach and learn things. And this thing up here will just sit there and churn through and ask you questions, and then you guys could send in the answers over here on the left. So if you were to send in an answer for, let's say, the next topic, which was, can you list the number of CPUs? If you do an ! Answer right now, it's going to drop into, that's interesting. Why is that thing there? Hold on. Anyways, yeah, if you guys do an ! Answer, you'll send in an answer to the number of CPUs. So, yeah, Xshunya, I just have never been super interested in dev stuff. Like I can code. I'm just not like I'm not a programmer, right? Like I'm not great at that kind of stuff. There it is. Yeah, there's our commands that are useful for you guys for this. Hayes, I'm doing a big deploy right now for the day. Wish me prayers and or luck. Nice, yeah. Hayes, well, hopefully everything goes well for you. I mean, if you've done all the planning and made sure that everything was going, you know, you were doing all the stuff, then, I mean, the best you can do is execute, right? I mean, you've done all the planning at that point. You've done everything you can to make things right. So, I think, yeah, you'll be good. This is one of those things where, you know, you can do, you do as much planning as you can, but then you just eventually have to go, right? And we just hope that systems work the way that we expect them to, and we hope that things don't break and all that good stuff. So, but could we list the number of CPUs? We should be able to say answer and then nproc, and that should pop up there for us, and then it should tell us the number of processors on Rocky 15. So we have, that goes back to multiple different backend nodes, 15 through 19. Yeah, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 5 different backend servers that can kind of go to. Also, we kind of had a little bit of a fun competition with the guys where they all kind of tried different versions, writing different versions of that script with only kind of the information that I had given them. And I don't have Colchis's new one, but Colchis had one that was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, Xshunya, that's kind of the goal, is just while I'm working on other stuff, give you guys the ability to check stuff out and look at stuff, and you know, have something fun to do, right? And then maybe for people that just stumble in here, they can maybe find some interesting Linux stuff that they can work on or play with, you know. I need to go fix this real quick. I'll put it right there. There we go. Scaladraw shows you guys how our lab works. There's a bunch of stuff like that up in the Discord that you guys can go look at and play with. So now the next question is, can you tell me the speed in megahertz? By the way, that thing's just going to run. I think it takes about 3 hours to go through the whole thing. But you guys can do exclamation mark answer. Yeah, I don't know why that's not listed in there. I can fix that real quick. Hold on. Answer. Yeah, I don't know why that one's not there. It's included now. I think I might have had it off because I wasn't using it. I'm not always using all of those, but it should be there now. So now if anybody does an exclamation mark answer, you can answer the question up on the right. And what I could do is I could take this. What is this thing called? It's just a... let's see, copy, paste with a duplicate, move this one up here, and I could say for that one, let's see here. Yeah, that works. Maybe. Yeah, maybe that works. There you go. Now you guys have all the power. You guys have all the power and all the tools. I've given you guys all the things I can to make it work for you. Right here. All the pieces are there now. How'd that work? That was close, but /Etsy/ typically exclamation or typically asterisk releases will run all that if you're looking for that. So it might look something like this. If this is a different answer, however, but that might be a way to do something similar. What? Oh, it's just release. Huh, you caught me. Got me messed up now. Etsy splat release. There's no no other thing on that. Was my bad. Yeah, that'll show you that, but that's a Tannis. Oh, that's interesting. Are we not jumping in? We should be jumping in as a root user. So that's really interesting. Oh, hold on a second. Are we not? No, we are the root user. Okay. Huh. Let's see. Oh, it's you guys gotta just ignore me. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't even know what's going on anymore. I should answer cat. I don't know. My brain's not working. I'm focusing on other stuff, so I'm kind of doing that as we play around in here. But the point is, you guys got a lot of stuff you can mess with. You know, a little bit of stuff to kind of look at. It is remote code execution. That's true. In fact, we've had a lot of malicious code run. Well, it's not malicious code because people can't get code on there, but people have done a lot of malicious things in that lab and gotten themselves banned. But I always tell people, like, I don't ever get it. You're already root. You know, somebody gave you root permission. That doesn't seem like it's that much, you know, of a challenge or fun anymore in my mind. So if I didn't know something, I would be trying to sit around and maybe work on it and learn it. But yeah, that is actually people's default, is to, I think, self-harm and not get themselves what they need. So. Yeah, so we're just co-working on different window. Yesterday I mostly played video games on here. We are going to get back in full study mode, so I'm going to be doing Sunday nights where we work on systems engineering stuff for academia. That's probably going to bore more people. Like, people probably think that sounds like it's fun, but that's probably going to bore a lot of people. Because it's going to be work. It's going to be reading and reviewing and adding stuff to our notes for the dissertation, and then, you know, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of work there. So that's what we'll be working on. LSCPU will give us a lot of information. Yeah, that'll probably tell us the architecture of the chip. It's probably accurate. Let's go look up a little bit here. Yep, there's the architecture right there. x86-64, that's what you want. It won't be x86 anymore most of the time. That's definitely some kind of lower, yeah, that's it. Uname-M, that's a great one. Yep. That shows you just that one thing, right? LSOF will show you all the open files, which is useful, but maybe not going to give you that, but that's still valuable. I like showing LSOF for, like, if we're trying to unmount or mount something that's in maybe a production system, and we're trying to see what's using that directory before we go unmounting it. Because it's never so clear as just, oh, we could safely unmount this. No, not in a production system. You have no idea what's touching that production system, you know? Even in my home lab here, if you were to look at what's going on in the lab right now, if you were to go look at these systems, you'd be like, oh, there's a Samba share there. We should just be able to unmount that and mount it real quick. Well, no, the Samba share is how my system through StreamerBot is feeding everything back into, like, the Linux backend stuff. So like that would be very important. Yeah, there we go. System D detect vert will show you that Zen is the server there. Yeah, don't sit in a directory as you unmount. That's true, Xshunya. And you can actually unmount a directory that you're in if you're root. You can do a umount-L. But I'm just going to tell you, if you do a umount-L on a production system with actual processes and service accounts and maybe even real like dev users in there, you're probably going to get yourself in. Just things aren't going to work the way that you expect if you do that kind of stuff. So let's see. AI is finding out why the sky is blue. That model is really chewing. You guys can see in the bottom right, that's the system. 32 CPUs really churning up and trying to figure out what's going on there. And sky is primarily composed of blue light. Interesting. Oh, it's funny too. It did that. It's funny. It did that twice because of where I posted it. So it did it on Twitch and YouTube. So it asked the question twice. That's funny. And then the AI tried to answer that twice. That's actually really funny. So it was doing two different things there. So it tried to. Oh, the sky in our solar system is blue. Okay. The sun's light scattering from the earth. Okay, that could be right. Okay. Yeah, so that's funny that it popped up in two different places, but it tried to give us the best answer it could for what it knew, right? And that's fun-ish. You can also see on the bottom right that's the system usage as the BTOP shows that we were hammering all 32 CPUs to try to get that answer. So that's kind of funny. Xshunya, if you were in the army, it would be because God loves the infantry. To bread, it's using a Qwen 2.5. I had to run something light because it's just a 32 CPU core system. I don't have any GPUs in the lab yet. We're gonna get GPUs eventually. Don't worry, we're gonna get GPUs in the lab eventually. But no, that box is it's running a Qwen 2.5 on Llama. I should probably draw that up one of these days on our. We've got that. That drawing that's up right there in Excalidraw, and a lot of times I show how things work there, and I probably should draw up the interaction with the AI part of it. I think that'd be kind of cool to show you guys. So yeah, but to Brett, I'm just kind of co-working. I'm in a different window doing stuff, and I just thought I'd throw some stuff up that was fun for you guys to play with. You guys on the top right, you can see that you could answer questions and it'll run it in the Linux on the top left. That is a process that I built out through StreamerBot, and it feeds out through a Samba share, and then people can run commands that way. And then if you guys do !AI, you can ask the AI questions. The AI is pretty limited, but it is specialized to code questions. So if you ask something around, any of the like syntax type questions, but you can't use colons because colons are the field delimiter, so that wouldn't work. But you could ask it questions and it would try to figure out stuff for you, which I think is kind of cool, kind of a fun little way to go about that. Let me fix this thing up here. It's just a little bit off. There you go. All right. So this is what we're doing. I can move that up a little bit right now too. There we go. All right. Oh, and also I need to update that because we're not at 3,800. We're just over 4,000 now. So notepad. Let's open up my little notepad here. File, recent, ticker info. Yeah, we just hit, guys, we just hit over 4,000. I don't know why I don't have this ticker right here. Let's see if I can open something here. Yeah, we just hit 4,000 a few times the other day. That's kind of funny. Yeah, a little over 4,000 down on the Discord hanging out. Here, don't worry too bad if your desktop doesn't look like this. This is not actually my desktop. This is just some scenes that I slapped together inside of OBS. So this is, you're actually looking at multiple windows on one of my desktops, and then I'm working in one of, I have 3 different desktops. But yeah, no, if your desktop doesn't look that cool, that's fine. This is just me presenting stuff for you guys to kind of mess with, and then you guys can hang out, you know, ask Linux questions with !ask, or the AI. I need to fix the streamer bot, one of those parts of that, and then kind of go from there. We were building this weekend, we were building Pop OS in our lab, so I had that up, and that's an interesting desktop. I don't run Linux desktop too much. Mostly all of my Linux is down in the weeds, right down in the terminal sessions. But ProLUG is the professional Linux users group. We have been around for about 11 years. It'll be 11 years in August. And the thing that we do is we get people into doing this stuff as a profession. So people that are interested in doing Linux or hobbyists, we help them get into that space. So that's what we kind of do around here. Just show people around Linux. I've got Discord where we've got a couple courses: Linux systems administration, Linux security engineering, and we just have people run through those courses and work on getting better at the things that people kind of hire for. My background, since Harrigan has maybe not been here before, my background is I've been doing Linux for about 25 years, 22 or so professionally, and then I've been a college professor for 17 years as of this December. So I'm just under 17 years teaching. And then we can, you know, sit around and talk about that, you know, networking, security. I've taught everything in the technical realm for college, so that's that. A step up from amateur lug. Yeah, it's because we're getting paid for it, right, Hayes? That's the update. So HTOP is not on those boxes, unfortunately. Ekshanya. Yeah, so the problem with that is you're just coming in on a session, so top won't work. So if you were trying to tell me, what is the question? Oh, how much RAM? Probably free-m is probably the command you want for that. And yeah, the environment variable not being set is because you're just dropping in on an individual command, so you don't get a term. You don't get to grab a VTY session. So I do like that. Hayes, I might use that as in our merch store. I might make a little thing that says Professional Linux Users Group, a step up from Amateur Linux Users Group. That's actually really funny. Hiragim said, are you writing an AI or using an AI implementation? Yeah, so in the bottom left, what I have running is on one of my boxes that's got 32 cores and 32 gigs of RAM, I think. He is just running a Qwen 2.5 model in Llama. So we're running Llama or Ollama. And then we're running that model out of there and then just sending over API calls to it. But no, I'm not writing any of that stuff. Guys, at the end of the day, I'm a guy who builds Linux systems out for people. That's what I do professionally. That's what I do for the government often. I build big systems that have sometimes tens of thousands of nodes in them. I use tools like Werewolf and XCat and all these different things to kind of build out the Linux systems, as it were. And then what I try to show you guys is like the basics of Linux and platform engineering, right? All of that. And because of that, because I've been doing that for so long, people use me for security implementations, and I get to do all kinds of other things. So I work in a lot of different spaces. But no, I'm not necessarily writing out some type of AI or any of that kind of stuff. Here again, I do not have a GPU yet. We're going to get one of those digits ones when they come out. But no, I'm not running any GPUs in the home lab. I have kind of a little bit dated hardware, but we throw just a bunch of CPUs at a pretty small Qwen 2.5 model. So yeah, it's only CPUs for now. In fact, that's what you're seeing in the bottom right. So if you ask a question, if somebody does like an exclamation mark AI and then asks a question of the AI, you'll see the bottom right. You'll see it churn up those CPUs and try to think through the problem, but it's doing it in 32 cores. So it's kind of it's limited in its power, but you'll see it like burn that box up on the bottom right. It's kind of funny, I think, but yeah, it's all CPU for right now. We're gonna eventually get a digits in, and I'll run it in the lab, and then inside the professional Linux users group we have again about 4,000 people, but I'd say we probably have a few hundred pretty active members, and we have people that hop in and use our labs and stuff. So I have a bunch of lab capacity for people, and soon I'd like people to be able to do work with those GPUs, right? Because I can share that out, and I have a whole process for how that works and how that kind of pops up. So on the bottom right, you'll see BTOP show the AI make the CPU go burr. That is actually funny because that's almost exactly what it's gonna do. And then it'll try to give an answer if it can think through an answer for you. It'll try to give some kind of answer. But you guys gotta remember, LLMs are really just sorting and organizing words that look kind of like a conversation. Large language models are not really that smart, right? What does it try to say? Yeah, and that one, Qwen 2.5, all the Qwen models are designed to be coding helpers. So you could ask it, like you guys could ask that, hey, I need, can you help me, write this JavaScript or something. The only limitation is the way we're feeding it in. You'd have some problems. You'd have problems mainly because any colons you use would be interpreted as a field delimiter, and it would immediately change your question, and it wouldn't work very well. But that's funny. Make future changes easier. Remember, making a CPU go burr is just one of many tasks that can be accomplished with programming skills. I like that. That's pretty funny. Efficient, scalable solution. Fair enough. Here again, you can do exclamation mark AI, and then you have to give it a question or give it a block or I don't know, something. Yeah. CPU actually burring would probably be vibrations, broken what is that? Broken the paste that's on there, right? That would break if it was yeah, all in all, any vibrations of a CPU are a problem. In fact, so I tell you guys a funny story. So I used to work at Lockheed Martin early on in my career, and we did downstream from satellites, so we captured a lot of data. And one of my buddies was working, we did downstream from satellites, but truly it was downstream from a bunch of sensors would be a better way to put it. And one of my buddies, he was oh shoot, I just realized I gotta do something here. One of my buddies, he was going up in airplanes, and he kept having these RAID devices that he had up in the airplanes with him fail. And he's like, but it's so cold up there, I always have to, and I go, well hold on, how cold is the hull of the plane? And he's like, well, in the back there it can get under 30 degrees. And I was like, well, and we're talking Fahrenheit, right? And I go, well, hold on, man, have you ever looked at the disks you're using in these RAIDs and your CPUs, in your systems? The disks are only designed to operate at certain, and he goes, I didn't know that. And I'm like, they're pressurized, like disks are closed and pressure sealed. And he goes, I didn't know that. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably blowing your freaking disks up. And he's like, I didn't know spinning disks were like, and this guy was a brilliant research scientist. This guy was very, very smart, but he just didn't know some simple thing about a system that did cause the disks to go burr. And if any of you guys, as we're phasing out a lot of spinning platters from computing, for some of you younger guys that have only ever known SSDs in your life, I can tell you this: if a head or if the arm ever touches the platter, that disk is crashed, right? So if you're changing the pressure inside of a closed-in system, either by cold or by changing the pressure outside the system, it's very possible that you are going to damage your. So this guy would always come to me with these broken RAID arrays and go, Scott, because I was a Linux guy and I was pretty well known for being able to fix things and get data off of things. And he would come to me and be like, Scott, can you rebuild this array? Scott, this array failed. And I'd have to go and get the data off of these disks for him. But I was like, dude, you're abusing these things in a way that they shouldn't be abused, because he didn't realize that there were specs of what, we don't normally, I mean, think about it. Probably none of you, I mean, I know I had never thought of this until then, thought about, well, okay, you've got this rack for a data center, right? And the rack is, X amount of inches wide and X amount of, U's tall and all that stuff. And now all of a sudden, it's now not sitting still, it's vibrating, right? So it's always vibrating because it's in a plane. And then not only that, but it's getting extreme cold temperatures, so that's changing things, and extreme pressure changes in the back of that aircraft. So those are all three things that, you might never have checked the disk because you were just going to put the disk, or you might have built a hard drive into a computer one day and never thought about all these other bad things that can happen to that hard drive, because we're mostly just used to, we just put a disk inside of a computer and put it under our desk. We don't go and do these extreme weather things to it, and that's kind of funny, right? Like, things do behave different under different pressures and different humidities and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, Hayes, my team did not communicate necessary change to me, so now we got to wait on someone to do manual. Yeah, Hayes, that's it. That's right. And then, Hayes, do you send emails to everybody that says, please do the needful? That's one of those like weird passive aggressive things that I think has always been interesting, because there's like whole cultures that like people from those cultures love to send emails that are like, please do the needful. And it's like, it sounds polite, but it kind of in English, when you actually read it, it's actually a little disrespectful. Just funny. It's funny, like the way, like because you'll work with all kinds of different people in your career, guys. You're going to work with people from America, from India, from probably even other countries that are big out there. America and India are big ones. I've worked with a fair amount of Germans in my time too, where English is their second language. So the things that they say are similar a lot of the times. Because it comes from like a cultural place. So there's kind of I wouldn't say it's like a landmine. It's not like something you have to navigate that's like bad. It's just there's a thing to learn that certain people communicate certain ways. So yeah, you'll see people sometimes send emails that say do the needful, and you're like, oh well, I was going to do the needful, but now I'm not. I'm like that little pingu. Now I'm not doing it. If you guys don't get that reference, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Pingu was just this silly little claymation character, and he's always say, now I'm not doing it. So actually he didn't say anything because it was a different language, but people have turned it into that. Yeah, but I kind of feel like somebody's teaching as English as a second language somewhere, that like please do the needful is like a common saying or something, and then like whole cultures have picked that up to use. I almost have thought sometimes, like, are people actually doing this to? It does feel kind of manipulative, right? Like, but I wonder if somebody didn't like get told that was the polite way that we ask each other that. I don't know. That's maybe just me having worked. There you go, John Jones. You can answer. You got to just give it. You got to give it an actual. With nothing, apparently, it's going to do that. with no answer, it's just gonna pop dev up. I think that's funny. But John Jones is here. I'm just calling you John Jones because I figure it's Exxon, or I would think like XOR typically, but I'm just calling you John Jones because that's funny. And he's retired, right? John Jones is retired. If any of you guys remember his run in the UFC. Guy's been around forever. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's like as soon as, in America, that's like as soon as you get on the internet, right? Isn't it 13 or 14 is when you're allowed to start making your own profiles? Before that, it's technically, and if you guys don't know why, it's technically illegal in the U.S. to track children under a certain age, and I believe it's 13, without their parents' consent. So then, yeah, you have to get to a certain age, and then you can be on your own emails and your own whatever. Before that, you have to use like a shared account through like your school or your parents or something like that. So yeah, but we're not working too hard today, guys. We're not really technically even on streaming. I'm just kind of hanging out while running some stuff up there, and then also I'm co-working in another stream, so, or in another screen. So that's where we're at. In fact, I need to go check some things over there for a little bit. Looking for alerts in the system. Shania, you said delve is a word that got popular after ChatGPT. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I did not know that. Oh, you know what? It's funny actually. Hold on, Jones. The problem with that, and see how it says sudo not found. We didn't put sudo on these boxes because people were logging in as root directly. So when I built these boxes are very, very lean container images, and then they're full servers when they get deployed. But nobody ever needed sudo because they jumped right in to sudo, right? So actually, you said they use Nigerians for data labeling and they use Delve. Ah, interesting. I didn't know that. Delve got really popular after ChatGPT. Interesting. Yeah, when I think of delve, I think like you delve into something, you peruse something. Most people probably don't think of it, but peruse means a deep and thoughtful study of things. A lot of times, Americans, we probably peruse is one of those words that's used the incorrectly the most in America. We say peruse, but we mean they're like, oh, I perused it, and they're saying it like was it Cousteau? Who was that character? There's a spy character, like a spy, I forget who he is. I think it's the guy from the Pink Panther. But he used to say, "Oh, I perused it." Well, perused means a deep and thoughtful study, not a short little quick look over. So chat got response. I didn't know that. No, that's interesting. Shunya, you'll find I've only barely played with any of the AI stuff. In fact, I was really shocked a while back. I was doing something in VS Code. I was writing some Ansible code, and it was like, "Do you mean this?" And I was like, well, that actually is what I was going to write for that module. And then I hit tab and it did it all. And then I went to write some other stuff and it goes, did you mean this? And it like just kept finishing. It was almost like rudely finishing my sentences for me, but they were correct. And I was like, well, that actually is what I was writing, because it knew in context what I was looking at and what files I was putting where and how I was doing it, because apparently these AIs are getting pretty smart. So it was like fixing all of my, not fixing, it was literally writing a bunch of things that I was going to go put on servers via Ansible. It wrote all my Ansible for me, and I was super surprised as I would start like to write the name and then copy, it would just go and it would write everything. It said, is this what you want to put there? And I was like, that's actually pretty right. And I was super surprised, man. Like, because I don't want to say like I'm an old dinosaur, but I definitely am. I definitely can write my own stuff, but it'll take me time, and it just like was doing stuff quick for me, and I was like, this is actually kind of saving me time. And the way one of our guys, Fisherman, always put it, he's a senior solutions architect with AWS. He said that he used AI kind of like a junior engineer to go be like he wanted to be like a gopher. He wanted it to go and answer questions and find things out for him and try to just like get him a quick, close to the right answer, but maybe not the right answer. Let's see if this thing can answer. It's trying right now. It's over there chewing it up in the bottom right. You guys can see the system thinking how to draw a pix map with alpha to window in X11. So it's trying to get you a good answer. Selector is a PCAP. Nice. Tab complete stuff works nice. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, so any command you send in, John Jones, just so you know, you could do that command you did with the Echo 3 proc VM drop caches. You could do that command without the sh-c on it, and it should work. That should just drop right into the system if you wanted to see it. So yeah, so then that's a pretty big output, but it did try to give you a good answer. And then if you were in our system, you could go read that out via API over here. So that answer is stored forever via the API right here. Here. So now see that answer is right here, and you could read it out of Loki if you wanted. So Loki will always have all the llama answers forever for anything anybody's ever asked in our system. Also all of the stream answers as well. So all the people dropping commands in here, they're shown forever here too. So I should actually, oops, shit. Get back over here. I should actually show both of them. So here's stream answers, and here is llama answers. So there's our llama answers there, and there's our stream answers there. And then we always have the generic one is always there. This is the one that just shows people trying to get into our system, right? This is forever people trying to, right? So whoops. This is users failing to get into our system for the last 6 hours, right? That's what that is. So we can see all this stuff. We can watch everything in real time in the home lab. That's one of the nice things about the home lab, is we can track as much things as we want and do all the Linux as it were. And in this case, using Linux for monitoring. Yep. So you see the command work, Jones, and then it runs it. It doesn't actually tell you anything, but it does drop the free memory cache out of that box. So if you did that, if you did like a free -m, that semicolon, that command, and then a semicolon and a free -m, you would see the difference between the amount of memory in the caches before and the amount of memory in the caches after. And I could I could do that command if you want to see it. Hold on, I'll drop it on the Twitch side. I'll do the same command you just did, free -m, and then it would look like this. So it'll pop up on the top there. So you see the free mem before, and then we drop the cache, and then the free -m after, which in that system, there must not have been any non-committed cache memory. So that's why it was like that. Hirgim, you wanted to know the yeah. Well, it looks like it tried to write a interesting little bit of code, and it actually wrote this would show up as code. So if I took this right here, right, like I can go grab it real quick. Hold on. I should be able to take all of this. Let me come back over here. Copy that. I thought we had a way. I thought I had written this. I see the new line characters in it, and I thought that I had taken them out, but maybe I had left them in, because what's happening is it's coming from JSON, and then I think I was just keeping it in this, so it was like a closed-in print, as opposed to if we let this read off, it'll be a pretty print, but it'll be a much bigger output. Does that kind of make sense? So I think that's like there was a trade-off there that we had to do, and I think I fell on the side of letting it just kind of do a big block like that, which is not super readable for us, but it's almost like, would be readable later, or we could. I think we had a way. I thought I had a JSON output that actually just showed it in normal, but again, then that would scroll too much, and we don't have so much space on the screen. So yeah. So no, that's a good. But that was a good one. I mean, that's kind of good way to do things and see it all work. So let me do this for people that need it. Discord over on the Twitch side. You guys can join Discord if you want. On the YouTube side, it's right in the channel description, so you guys are always welcome to kind of join and hang out with other engineers and that kind of stuff if you guys want. We don't charge anything for Discord. I don't even know how to do that, even if I wanted to, but we just hang out down there and basically talk shop with other engineers and stuff. People always, there's always something going on down in the Discord, which one of the things I kind of like, you know, like I tell people all the time, it was never supposed to be the Scott show. The Discord is supposed to be for kind of all of us to get in there and work on stuff. So it's a good question. Can you show all of the use space in the current directory you're in? So you guys can do an exclamation mark answer. I'm gonna step away for a second, guys. I'll be right back. I'm gonna take a little walk, grab some water, maybe even get a drink. Guys, I also got to figure out something to eat today. I haven't eaten anything really. Try to go figure something out. Havoc, how's it going? Yeah, that's a good little DU there. Should show us what's in the directory with us. There we go. Also jumped over to Rocky 19. Some of you guys know, if you're looking at the top right there, there's that diagram of how you access the lab, and it's more, that's more of like a fun drawing that we kind of worked on a while back to show how the lab works in the professional Linux users group. But some of you guys know I've been updating the method for logging in, so now we're going to have more systems freed up for us to do other fun stuff with after this group ends. So when this group ends, the kind of cohort that's going through right now for let's see, that's going until the end of July probably, because they're doing 16 weeks and we're in week 11, so got a little bit more time. Those guys, those people are going to be the last one that logs in with the old method, and then on the next version we're going to roll it through and do the newer method, which I hope will be much better for people, and the capacity will be better and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully we deconflict some people running into each other and stepping on each other's toes and all that kind of stuff too. And then from there we're going to work on the next version of the courses. We're going to do offensive security and we're going to do automation. Those are going to be the next two courses we do. So, oh, this is set at last 90 days. Let's go send this back to where it normally is, which is 7 days. So there we go. All right. So now this is what our system normally looks like when we're monitoring it right here. And then we've got the commands that have been run and sent into the system. We can see those. That's useful, right? We have all the old commands. That's always good to see. Yeah. So we're gonna keep running. I mean, you know, we've been running the group for a long time. The goal is to get you guys doing this stuff professionally. So most of the stuff that I do or put together has to do with, you'd be surprised, man. I do a lot of basic Linux, right? And the simple basic things that I do yield good results. So engineering doesn't have to be super complex. I mean, it gets complex, but it's simple building blocks to get there, right? And try to show you guys that and get you guys doing that stuff. So all right, so we got all that stuff going. If you guys have questions, let me know. Jones, you're working on the Cisco DevNet cert. Goal to automate everything I know and then automate everything I learn as I learn it. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I think if you can get something to work once and then you can set it aside and automate it so that you don't ever have to really do it that much again, that's a pretty valuable thing. So to that point then, the DevNet cert, I haven't heard of the DevNet cert for Cisco. I haven't kept up on Cisco much except for like the CCNA. And then I still teach the topics of the CCNA at the college, but I originally got my CCNA in 2002, so it's 23 years ago. And yeah, that's interesting. I haven't played with DevNet at all, so but I would tell you definitely figure out how to make automation work better for you, because that's going to make everything else easier. All your programming, all your things that could potentially be have mistakes, you won't have mistakes because you'll be doing automation. So the only mistakes you could have is if you have poor configuration or poor like initial setup or mapping or inventories, right? That kind of stuff. So you want a portfolio of modular scripts so you can automate your environment. Nice. I mean, that's a good thing to start with, right? Like I have a portfolio. I was even looking at some of my old stuff from when I've been on interviews over the years, and yeah, I have stuff that kind of shows what I had built and what I had worked on and kind of stuff like that. And mostly then I just kind of wanted to be able to walk through and show, people what I could build and that kind of stuff. So yeah, Terraform plus Ansible, sure. Both IBM products now, which is always fun. It's always fun. One of the CCNA questions is, what port does Ansible use? Ansible I would have a hard time with that question because I've used Ansible so much on so many ports. I mean, the answer they're probably looking for is port 22, but WinRM 5985, 5986. You could use all kinds. Yeah, Ansible. The default port for Ansible is 22. Ansible can use all kinds of ports, but in Linux and I guess for them, yeah, it's port 22. Sure, that's a good start. But then you can, yeah. There's other things that Ansible can do. It doesn't just have to hit port 22. Yeah, that's good. But I guess that's the default, so that's probably what they're looking for there. Chef, I mean, you could spend time with Chef if you want. A lot of people, there's a good thing. I try to tell people when you're looking at stuff that you want to do in your career. I mean, if you really want to work with Chef, learn it. But there's a lot of people are just looking for what's marketable and stuff. And I would tell you for that, there's a really good set of published things every year from a company called Gartner. A lot of IT professionals use Gartner to kind of choose what they're going to implement and that kind of stuff. A lot of management uses it. So whether you like Gartner or not, I mean, they're very good at kind of publishing what people are using. And one of the things that is not kind of keeping up is in the automation space is Chef and Puppet. And then you say, well, can you give any other demonstrable things about that? Well, yeah, AWS dropped support for them last year as well. So if AWS even dropped support for Chef and Puppet through their AWS OpsWorks, yeah, they dropped support for them. So it's like that's indicative of them, I think, being on the downward swing as far as that goes. Like I try not to get into The politics of things. I try not to shit on things. Like if people like writing stuff in COBOL, I'll be like, well, that's cool, man. There's probably some government jobs out there for you still. But if you said, hey, Scott, I want to have like a really marketable skill and I want to write COBOL, I'd say, well, I mean, I'm not a programmer, but I can tell you most programmers I know are like Python, Go, and Rust. That's like what I hear. And then there's some guys, some of my buddies are like C++ guys, but that's because they've been C++ guys forever, and that's what they're going to do forever, and that's, whatever. And that's fine, right? But it's just one of these things, like, you got to know what you're doing, right? You got to know what your goals are and all that kind of stuff as well. So, can you list the number of free inodes in Slash? That's a fun one. Yeah, thought AI was doing all the programming now. That's what they say, right? But there's still decisions to be made. There's still architecture and underlying hardware decisions to be made. So what I do is when problems happen is document them. Yeah, Hayes, I agree with that. People don't document their problems, and then the problem happens again, and you're sitting there scratching your head wondering why nobody figured nothing out. Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you, anonymous gifter, for giving Rust Sucks a tier 1 sub. Well, hopefully we don't pull a bunch of crustaceans in here and get the crab treatment. But I am not. Most of you guys know I'm a Linux guy through and through, but I am not a professional coder. That's not what I do. I keep systems running. I build systems. I do a fair amount of coding in Bash and Ansible, but that's not, I don't consider that to be like software engineering in any sense, right? That's why I don't get into like the programming languages. I just use whatever I need to for the thing that I'm doing, and it's mostly all scripting stuff. So, what else? Oh, this is actually interesting. We have a fair uptick this weekend. We had an uptick in users, but that's because I had people testing the new methodology that I have. So we have a new way for you guys that want to log into our systems. We have a new way for people getting in there and being able to use the systems. So that's kind of it's kind of something to think about. Oh, let me get this. I need to clean that up a little bit. There we go. All right. Did I miss? Hold on, I'm missing chat. Havoc, you said, have I ever worked in financial space, banks? Yeah, I've worked for banks. Yep. I've actually done a fair amount of stuff with, so in my space with like high performance compute, and then even when I'm just like a normal platform engineer, yeah, I've worked with some pretty good sized banks that you guys would have heard of out of the bigger part of California. So some of like the tech banks. And then I've also worked a lot with cancer research and satellites and those kind of things. So those are the spaces I've been in when I wasn't directly working for the government building out HPC like supercomputers. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Revisualize. Do you really think that Linux engineering is a viable role in the AI ecosystem? I know parts of tech support, enterprise NAS is being automated rapidly. Yeah, revisualize. I think that for Linux engineering, I still think you're going to need people in there building stuff. And the reason I say that is it's the same thing I talk about with like STIGs, right? STIGs are the Secure Technical Implementation Guidelines, and for RHEL 9, there are 467 STIGs, right? And we know what they are. It's a known quantity. You want to lock down a Red Hat 9 Linux box, we can do it right now, right? But then we back up a second and we say, wait a minute, what if like why don't we just turn them all on? Why don't we just turn those all on and call every Red Hat system ever secure, right? Like in our company. Well, the answer is because when you turn all 467 STIGs on, it fucking breaks everything. It's just a big old hot mess of breaking. So now you got to walk back from the ones that are working, and then you got to take off the ones that are breaking. So you got to figure that out. And maybe AI can do that pretty quickly. But maybe there's like an understood trade-off that it's okay to leave maybe SSH more exposed for like, your MACs, right? Your message authentication ciphers, right? So those can be maybe a little more exposed because we understand that we're behind an air-gapped system, and we're okay with our they're called hash macs, right? Those can be a little further behind than maybe before, but we understand like the mitigating factors that go into it, and that's the concept that's outside of maybe like what you could just read by like knowing everything about a system very quick. I don't know. I'm not saying that an AI wouldn't be able to eventually do a lot of that stuff. I just think there's stuff that you still kind of need a person for, because it's not. I tell you guys this all the time, and this is true. In engineering, if I can give you an equation to do something, an exact equation that's always followed, that's engineering. And by the way, yeah, computers are going to be better than that at us. But then if it's not an exact equation, it's kind of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, that becomes art. So when people call things like the art of engineering, it's this idea that like you know where to apply things. Anyways, I don't see engineering, systems engineering and Linux engineering going away for AI anytime soon. But maybe that's me. Also, there's this other thing about it that people that have been working for a long time, you know, like 20 plus years, but I'd say even people that have been a little bit in IT space, you go watch a system that's got the ability to stoneth another system, right? To shoot the other node in the head and take over all its resources. And you watch just like a weird little hiccup happen in that system. And it crushes that system and it takes it down, you know, knocks the other node over, takes all the resources. There's a concept of what we call failback. And automated failback is almost always the worst thing you can do ever in a system, because what will happen is the system will come back up. It'll say, hey, I'm good, bro. The system will give its resources back. That thing will start to panic because maybe there's a hardware or some other problem. And then the node will have to stoneth its buddy, shoot the other node in the head again, take it out. And then we would go there. Text programmer, AI could do RM. Yeah. So my point is, it's like, it does things very quickly and very accurately with the information that's there, but then it doesn't consider the implications of it. So I'll tell you, in all my years of doing it, with all the times that we could just fail back to a service, we've never once done it. You never once turn that on in a production environment. You bring this server up, you run it through its paces, you do a burn-in, maybe a war check, whatever your different types of checks are, and then you go from there. Yeah. So I would tell you that, like, I don't see, you know, it stepping into that space where like humans still kind of need to be there. And you might say, well, couldn't a human make an error? Well, absolutely. A human can make an error. People can make all kinds of errors. That's why we use automation and other things that kind of make us we're still doing things, you know, quickly and efficiently, but we're checking things and we're doing automation to our purposes. We're not letting like the system just pull the trigger, if that kind of makes sense. So I do think I do think Linux engineering is going to be around. I do think it's something people should spend their time with, as far as that goes. This new failed password here, Dolphin Scheduler, I don't know why that one's been coming through, but that one's been coming through for the last few days. And I think that's kind of interesting. We're also getting some that are distinctly Chinese in nature. So I don't normally sit around and look at the users, but it does look like there's some interesting users attempting to get into our systems right now. So that's kind of funny. Right. Keep track of them. Watch them get locked out forever. That's always funny. Yeah. So there's a lot of things to think about as we look at systems and do this stuff, right? And I don't think AI, I mean, this is me, AI, and when we say AI, we're talking a large language model that's pretending to imitate life, right? And these are the same things that can draw all kinds of stuff, but it'll put 6 fingers on somebody's hand because it doesn't know why the fingers are there, right? It just knows that the fingers are in photos, and it knows that they've got this basic shape and a nail on the end of them and all this stuff, but it doesn't really know. YouTube's getting blacked out? Oh, that's not good. Check out. YouTube gets blacking out. Hopefully I'm not blacking out on sending stuff to YouTube. But it's interesting. I'm not watching that screen like I should probably. So let me move this. I'll move this over here for my chat, and then I'll turn my chat this way. Actually, I might like that. That might be a kind of cool way to do this. Now I got my chat turned. Some of you guys know I have a. You guys all know what a lazy Susan is. Anybody here ever heard of a lazy Susan? Yeah, a lazy Susan is a type of thing that you put on a table so that people can just spin the food around. Well, so I have a lazy Susan under my I got a lazy Susan under my my left monitor, so I can rotate the monitor about 270 degrees in any direction. And I just turned it right now so that I could see the chat a little easier, and I think that's kind of nice. 10x programmer said, but I've used Claude for writing GitHub actions. These YAML files are annoying to write myself and get it right. Usually works first try with Claude. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think we were talking about this earlier. The guys I know, that like the engineers that I respect and know well, like personally, that have used AI the best, that I've talked to and they tell me how they're using it, they use it kind of as like a junior engineer or like a gopher, or like how like a lawyer would use a paralegal to go find a bunch of files on like previous case law or something. That's kind of what this is like. It's you know, you go, it goes and it finds, you know, it'll write out the format of something, and then maybe you have to give all the arguments to the module or something inside of. I'm using Ansible as an example. Like I know when I write out an Ansible playbook, like I know copy, right? Copy is source and destination, and then remote source is either defaulted to no, or remote source could be yes if we needed it to be a local thing. Maybe it's pulling from its own NFS or something. And there's all these things, right? But maybe so I know copy well. Copy's easy. But what if I was doing like firewall D, and I'm like, oh, firewall D has for sure an argument about reloading the firewall, but I don't remember that. And I don't remember how to make it permanent. Now I could go check the Ansible docs, right? Ansible-doc and read that. Or if I'm doing it inside of like my VS Code will try to fucking write it for me nowadays. Like it just started doing that a while back, and it's like you just have a tremendous amount of capabilities built into these things now for you know, I guess Copilot as some people are using it or whatever. And yeah, I haven't used it because, right, like I'm not a software engineer, but the software engineers that I know that are using it, they seem to like that stuff. So yeah. But yeah, we're just hanging out. You guys have the ability to send in exclamation mark answers, and you'll see those things run in Linux if you want to try that. And you guys can do exclamation mark AI, and it will try to answer questions for you. But also, it's just a pretty weak little AI, so it'll probably fail fantastically, but I think it's humorous. And if it's churning through something, you'll see that in the bottom right image there, that BTOP that we're running on the Llama server. If you're curious about the back end to that, it's Ollama running Qwen 2.5. There's 32 cores of CPU and 32 gigs of RAM, so it's not some beefy. I mean, it's a beefy server, but it's not GPU'd out or anything. We don't have GPU in the lab yet. I plan on getting that up here in the next few months, but they have not released the little digits module yet, so I don't have one of those yet. I guess I could just start looking for old hardware, but like decommissioned hardware that has GPUs in it. But nowadays that stuff's still kind of expensive, right? Like it's still kind of a lot to get at. If we're gonna get something, I'd rather get like a new digit system, carve it up, and just throw it on the network, and then just have access to it that way. That may even prompt me jumping over to Proxmox, because I haven't jumped over to Proxmox yet. I've been stuck on my XCP NG for like I don't know, 10 years now. I've been running that, somewhere around 10, yeah, about 10 years or so. systems. Yeah, so I'm just kind of co-working another window while we're sitting here talking. I want to give people access to the lab. I want to tell people that we've got a group that kind of hangs out and talks about Linux. And more than just, you know, Linux as like a hobby. It's fun to do Linux, right? Like a hobbyist Linux work is fun and stuff, but our goal is to get you guys to do it professionally if you want to. So help you get the base skills, help you update your resume, help you get ready for the job, you know, questions and that kind of stuff. It's kind of like if we had like a pipeline in our server, that would be kind of like the main things that we try to get you to do. Have those base skills that are going to be useful to you out in a career. Which, again, I think the career is, you know, it can completely change maybe the trajectory of your job. One of my younger brothers, he got into Linux back when I started this group, probably about over 10 years ago now. And he started working at a company out here called Codero, and he got to running a lot of their Linux. And then he moved over to AAA, and he's been there for like 9 years. And he runs a bunch of their OpenShift stuff. He doesn't have a degree in this stuff. He just got into it and started working on it, right? Revisualize, you said we have a keyword AI system that's absolutely horrible for routing tech support cases. You want to punch it in its silly AI face. Yeah, actually, Revisualize, I don't know if you use something like ServiceNow or ServiceNow, but I've always hated, this has always been a hang up of mine in ticketing systems where it's like, okay, we got to pick hardware or software, and you're like, well, but it's kind of part of the Linux OS. So then you go and you drill down into that, and it's like, well, if it's the Linux OS, then it's got to be one of these, and it's only whatever like canned things are there. And you're like, well, it's not really any of those. It's kind of this new one, but you don't have permission to make a new one. So now if you want to make a new one, like a new category of things that could go wrong on systems, now you have to like go through this whole process to do that. And most people don't do that, so then it just gets dumped in like a general bucket. And for me, that's like when the process becomes harder. There's an old saying, right? But let's say this real quick. When the process is harder to just drop it in, you know, in general or something like that, and then if that's harder to do than just doing the right thing, people are going to do the thing that's easy, right? But there's an old saying. It says when policy isn't enforced, practice becomes policy. And the way I always think of that is like, yeah, so if I'm looking at some tool and the tool does bad stuff, the people are going to find a way to work around and not use the tool. So you probably have a bunch of ways to fix or stop that thing, or you guys probably have ways that you, or one of the worst things is there's the information there, but now you guys ignore it because it's just dumping stuff into the wrong place or whatever, and that's a hassle, right? This is one of the hassles of being in tech, especially in anything customer facing, because customers just most of my customers are already engineers, so they're a little more sufferable, but average users are just, gosh, they're just nightmares. And I try to tell people not to get too cynical about it, but man, average users, man, we talk about making something idiot proof, and they make a better idiot. You tried to stop them, but they weren't wearing their sign, so you didn't know that that's an old Jeff Foxworthy bit from like the 90s. He used to say, well, if you were wearing your sign, I could have stopped you. Yeah, you just move to the correct queue manually. Yeah. But it's a hassle, right? Because it can sit there and it can be in the wrong queue and probably affects your trouble ticket. Like you probably have a pickup time, and there's all these KPIs of like a good operations team. And for teams that deal in tickets, it tends to be around how quickly tickets are picked up and then how quickly they're acknowledged and closed. Those are things that are important to managers that oversee that kind of stuff, right? So, anyways, you guys can, those questions that are up there, you can do !answer if you want to try to answer them. How can you tell that an interface is physically connected? Typically something like ethtool. Ethtool is one of my favorite commands in general, but use ethtool. Here, I'll post that real quick. I'll drop it on the YouTube side. Answer ETH tool ETH 0. And that should pop through over there. And say, yep, tells us that the link's detected. That can save us if we can get to a box and then we're looking for different interfaces to actually be plugged in. That can be super useful right there, because now we don't have to go and see if there's a link light on. That is analogous to us from the OS side, that the link light is on in the back. We used to have to get up and go to the data center back in the day. You still might have to, don't get me wrong, but at least with this, I know something's plugged into the place that I expect it to be. That's kind of one. Yeah, revisualize. If you do an exclamation mark answer before that command, it'll send it up in the system and you can watch it run. If config's good, IP adder. But those can be there and they can be configured, but they won't show you necessarily if. Just do exclamation mark answer and then your output. So if I was doing yours, it would be exclamation mark answer space if config dash VVV, and it'll capture that. You don't need the semicolon at the end. You can probably put the semicolon, it'd be fine. The only thing that's a field delimiter that would cause some people problems is a colon. Yeah, that should work. If that doesn't work, it was only because we were in a timeout. Like there's a few minutes timeout. I think it's only like a minute. Oh no, there it is. If config dash VVV. VVV is not recognized for if config. So there we go. I didn't realize that. I tend to use, I'll show you guys one I really like. It's one I like. But that one doesn't give us exactly, well, I mean, that shows us that it's programmed and maybe it was up at one time. But if right now the system actually was up or down, we might not know. So you can put those in. Isn't found on your Linux systems. ETH tool isn't found. ETH tool isn't there? I'd maybe look into if you could put it there if it wasn't. ETH tool is a fantastic tool for not having to get up out of your chair. Also, because my systems are all virtual and I use XCPNG, I don't have a physical box. There's nowhere to go look. Like if I'm sitting here and I want to know if there's actually, you know, a connection, I have no way to know from the OS by going and looking at the back of a box anymore. There's no actual physical server to go look at, so I don't have a way to know that. So that's kind of something to think about too, as far as that goes. ETH tool isn't found. Okay. Ah, this one's good. Can you determine your default route? That's an important thing. That's an important one. Can you determine your default route? IP isn't even found on the box you support. Are you using? I'm heavily involved in RHEL and Rocky, so you might be using something else. Possibly some. I mean, IP's been around for a while, but it might not be on some older boxes, I guess, and maybe some generational. I don't know if SUSE has it. I do have some SUSE in my environment that we could try. Custom free BSD distro. Well, yeah, that could do it. Might not be there. Yeah, these are just dropping into Rocky 9 containers. Well, they're full boxes, they're full servers, there's 5 of them, but they are Rocky 9 containers under the hood, so if they get rebooted or anything happens to them, they just come back up as a clean node again. So. We're good. So we're just kind of hanging out a little bit. Not doing anything too heavy right now. We'll get back into we got to start doing. So I've got some book stuff to finish writing. So there's some book stuff coming down the pike, and then we've got some. Let me think. Yeah, there's some book stuff coming. We're gonna update the book, and then we've got some more course stuff coming. So that's all stuff that we're gonna be doing as part of the group. Got a big event in August that's coming as well for people that want to hang out in August with our Linux group. It's been a while since we wrote anything in here. Yeah, that's good stuff going on there. All right, gotta figure out, guys. Oh, by the way, I think Ranger Cam's back up. Let's go. That's always a fun one. Let me get Ranger Cam back going. I think I turned the yeah. Ranger's back up. You guys always like Ranger. He's laying on one of his two bed. He's got two beds back here and one bed up here now. So he's my very old dog. We had a big party this weekend, guys. My wife's sister, so my sister-in-law, I guess, if you want to call her that. She's good people. She turned 40. Well, her birthday is sometime this month. I don't know exactly when, but we celebrated on Saturday, right? So on the Army's birthday, on the Army's 250th birthday, and on Flag Day, right? Because I was an Army guy, so Army's birthday, 250th. And then also that, we had a big party over here. And Ranger got a lot of attention, a lot of people hanging out with him and stuff like that, so he had a good time with that. That was kind of fun for him. But then he's an old dog, so then this is the next few days after the party, just laying around and relaxing. It's kind of hard for him to even stand up sometimes nowadays. He's kind of getting so old. You have to keep him pretty medicated up for a lot of his stuff, so. Yeah, so that's Ranger. Yeah, can you determine the MTU with ping, kind of? Yeah, actually you can, yeah. I actually show that sometimes, if you guys are interested in that. I've shown that before anyways, but yeah. You do a dash capital M do to set the don't fragment bit, and then your system will not be able to fragment when it goes from layer 3 down to layer 2, and when it can't fragment over like 1476, because the header, 1500 is normally your MTU on a Ethernet 2 network, then yeah, it crashes. I could write that. If you guys want to see that, I can send that in as a command. It would look something like this. Answer before, just say for I in and then dollar sign, let's say sequence 1400, 10, 1500, do ping dash C1 dash M do. Let's go to like .1. The packet size, we need dash size is dollar sign I, and then done. Yeah, you can guess a bunch of times, or you can do kind of what I'm doing here. I'll show you guys what I would do. So it should ping, and then you should get to where the message is too long because the MTU is 1500. So I can make that a little better. So yeah, the first one worked, the second one worked, and then the next one. So it might look like this. Hold on, let me redo my answer there real quick, and then say that I would do, in my do, I would say echo and then send that in. So this would be a way to do it right here. So 1500 failed, message too long. 1490 failed, too long. This one failed too long. 1480 was too long. 1470 worked, and then we would know it was between 1470 and 1480. So that's a way to do it right there. The little exclamation mark that I did. And I've told you guys, I've had to do this before in my professional world, because actually the way I've had to do it is I was assured by the networking team that between my device and the storage area networking box that we had super frames or jumbo frames, 9,000 or higher. We had 9,000 was ours, set between the nodes. And then I said, all right, well, let me test, trust but verify. And I did this, and I found out that I was not getting all the way through. Somewhere after it left my system with this command, I was getting a failure right at about where we would expect. So then they went back through and they go, oh shoot, no, this one switch, we didn't realize it was sometimes going over this other switch. That switch didn't have it set to jumbo frames. Okay, you're good. And then I tested again and we were good, and then everything worked. But when you're first setting stuff up, sometimes you trust, but you still verify, right? What does it cost me to press up in a terminal window and run that command again after you tell me you changed something? I'd rather, there's this old saying, one test is worth 1,000 expert opinions. We could all sit here and hub-a-bub about who's smarter and who's whatever, but we could just sit there and run it, right? And we could just see what happens in the system. So anyways, that's what we did there. So that was my command. That's how I would do it. But yeah, that's that. And then what's the question up there? Can you list all your open ports? Yeah, I think you guys can do that with the SS command. I think most of you guys can do that if you wanted. It would look something like this. And then it'll show us all the open ports that system's listening on. And then here's one that's kind of just an additional thought to that, is just because those ports are open doesn't mean that they're accessible outside of my system. Do I have to check something else out? And yeah, you should make sure that Firewall D or IP tables or NF tables, which is structured under Firewall D, are capable for us to get to, right? And if we show something being open here, like 22, but then it's being blocked via the firewall, then we need to figure out, do we really think that that's open? Then we can start doing like net connect, NC connections in, or netcat connections, right, in to see if we can get to different ports and that kind of stuff. So there's that. Yeah, revisualize. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Yeah, I should have a call in about an hour, but that got canceled. So now I'm kind of just working on other stuff. All right. Manu, how's it going? Yeah, we're you're learning Linux. Good, good, good. We're a group that tries to get people into doing Linux professionally, so you're welcome to hang out here. I'm not working too much on this stuff. I'm just kind of hanging out and talking with you guys while I'm working on another screen, doing some actual work. So we're just kind of hanging out. You can send in !answer to answer any of those questions in the top right, and it'll run it in the top left in the Linux box. You can also do !AI, and it will, you can ask the AI questions if you want. I got a little LLM running, and it's doing some stuff. It's not super efficient, but it's actually designed for helping people with code, but it's a little Quen 2.4 model, or 2.5, Quen 2.5. So that's sitting there hanging out. We do got a lot of resources in the Discord around learning Linux as an admin and an engineer. That's what I do professionally, so that's what I try to get other people to do. So that's it. And then we got my dog Ranger down there, just laying around, being lazy. Figure I'll get up around like 2 hours, so probably hang out for another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll go jump on a raid somewhere, find somebody over on the Twitch side to hang out with. Oh, gotta take a phone call real quick. 1 second. Oh, apparently that person didn't want to talk to me very much, so. Yeah. But you guys are welcome to hang out. The nice thing about Discord is it's more persistent than this. Like, you know, we can only hang out in here a little bit, very one way, but down there's always kind of fun stuff going on. People working on stuff, people doing challenges and writing different things and showing their home lab setups and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna eat, man. Kind of hungry today. What's today? Monday? Oh yeah, start of a new week, right? Discord is here, Manu. I'll send it to you. Over here. There's the link. It's ProLUG, Professional Linux Users Group. So our goal, take people that do this stuff as a hobby. We're all hobbyists, right? We all do this stuff for fun. Like all the stuff I have up there on the right is fun. But it's, you know, more, can we do this stuff and get into it professionally? Can we make ourselves useful to a company in a way that, you know, causes them to want to hire us? That kind of stuff. We have a bunch of, you know, questions, and I do, you know, practice interviews with people and all that kind of stuff. So, not just me either. We have all kinds of other systems engineers and architects down there, and people have been doing this for a long time, some even longer than me, you know. And the goal is just to keep herding people towards, like herding them over like little cattle into doing this stuff and getting there, you know, getting in the industry. That's the goal. We did just hit 4,000 this weekend, so that's kind of cool. Trying to keep our numbers well up over 4,000 so it doesn't fall below, because when it falls below, the bot sits there and it's kind of annoying. The bot keeps saying, "Hey, happy 4,000th person" over and over again. That's kind of funny. But if we just climb up a little bit over so that threshold doesn't keep getting popped, I think people stop doing it for fun, you know. So. All right. Aside from that, we've got a bunch of stuff that we're working on. We do a lot of monitoring in the lab. A bunch of different courses that exist for you guys to work through. Oh, I just realized that's not even updating, is that? That's weird. Why is that not updating? That is super weird. Okay, there it is. It's updating there. But I was like, wait a minute, why is that not? Okay, there we go. Yeah. Courses for you guys to do, and things for you to track and monitor in the lab. Yeah. Keep an eye on Ranger. Yeah, got a lot of stuff going on. Too many things to keep track of. I mean, any certificates you recommend for becoming sysadmin, or a pathway for that if you can spare time? There's a couple reasons, YouTuber. One, I don't control the bot. One of our other engineers does, and he's perpetually busy. In fact, I haven't even seen him he's one of our mods, and he hasn't been in the stream I haven't seen him in months. So I don't know where he is. So that's the first answer. He runs the bot, not me. I just gave him control to make the bot. I could do a pull request against his GitHub, but then again, that's the same problem again, right? We got to get it. So could I do it? Absolutely. But I don't have admin on it. I don't control it. So that would be that. Manage any certificates you recommend for becoming a sysadmin, or a pathway for that if you could spare some time. Well, I would find people, that are doing it, and I would go look at what they're doing. There's all kinds of certificates out there. In fact, I'd say there's more certificate noise than anything. Yeah, he's definitely missing in action. But Manu, I would say we've got a course. Our course is free. This is the Linux admin course here. And this one teaches you about these things, right? These are all the things that I think are important, but like these are them here. But also this is in the context of doing it for a business. So this isn't just like I can drop you in, like if you said, hey Scott, I need to get technical skills in Linux, I would go, okay, well, go to Killer Coda right here and just start doing Linux literally all over there's literally like all kinds of labs all over the place in here to learn Linux, right? And to learn Kubernetes and learn all kinds of stuff. But if you want to learn how to do it for a business and like do it in a professional context, we have our Linux admin course, this is free, it doesn't cost nothing. You just got to get in there and do it. And there's 16 weeks on doing these things, but doing them for the business. Doing them like storage, and storage how a company would want to do storage, right? And storage is storage for the most part, but an organization might do certain things with its storage that you might not have thought of as just somebody running Linux in your home lab, right? That kind of stuff. So this also has a little certificate that comes with it. This also has a little thing that you can prove that you've done it. So like I can go to verify here, and I can verify that I've done this cert. And then this is actually on the cert as a, what the heck are those things called? A QR code. So there's actually a QR code on the cert for people that want to do that. But anyways, that's, but if you're just like, hey, I want to get in the industry and I just want to do some generic industry cert, obviously the best one around, in the Linux space is RHCSA. And that's also, you got to be hoping to do RHCSA type work, so Red Hat type. There are all kinds of other Linux positions and things open, but the most common you're probably going to run into is going to be Red Hat based, right? The other ones that are somewhat common are going to be your Debian, Ubuntu based jobs. And then I would tell you for those, you could go get a generic cert. I would start working on a portfolio if it were me. if I were doing this again. Although I kind of fell into Linux just because I was doing networking so much, and I've told some of you guys that have been around, you know, that I just didn't love networking. I'm okay. I mean, I still teach networking. I think networking is a fine engineering field to be good at. I just don't love it. So I wanted to go do something a little more challenging and a little more of, you know, the stuff that I like, which is more systems engineering. So that's how I got into that. We also have a different course that just finished, which was in security around Linux, which is also a good way to show somebody that you understand Linux. Can I secure the build of the server? Can I secure its network connection? Can I secure users logging in and then air gap it and make it secure if we have to keep parts of our network safe? And so anyways, all this stuff is just, I would tell you to just start finding how you can prove that you know this stuff to a business. If that's a certificate, fine. If that's a certification, sure. If it's if I were doing it, I would be doing my own portfolio. I'd be building out projects and stuff that show that I know how to do monitoring and I know how to do these other things that are important. Because if I can't do those things, then or if I can't talk to those things, it doesn't really matter what I have on my resume, because I'm not going to be able to talk to it well in the interview anyways. So that's my thoughts on it. That's kind of my thoughts on it. All right. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to find somewhere to raid. I think we've had fun here. Well, you know, it's been good. Been working on other stuff, and hopefully you guys have found use of the system a little bit. We'll go to our end of stream thing here. Hopefully this stuff is somewhat useful to you guys. We'll go pop in and raid. Go raid Rossberger probably. That'll be fun. And for you guys that enjoy this stuff, come hop down in the Discord. But otherwise, I will see some of you guys later on this week. Take care.